Welcome to this podcast. My name is Filippa Levemark, and I created this show so that you can listen in on the sessions that I do and hope that you might benefit from it as well. Perhaps you're going through something similar in your life, or maybe someone close to you is. Either way, I hope you gain some insights, some new perspectives and tools that can help you in your growth and healing journey. In this session, Ella feels that she expresses herself poorly when she is angry, and her desire is to manage her communication in a better way when she's angry. Welcome to listen in on our conversation, where we look at where this anger is coming from and how to establish and communicate boundaries in a healthy way. All right, so what would you like help with today?
So I want to work a bit on this anger feeling. I think it's the feeling that I active more easily, especially when someone does something that I don't think is nice. And everyone makes mistakes, right? So instead of sometimes embracing mistakes and talking to people or expressing it, I do express, but I express it from an anger point.
Okay, so is it you wanting to respond better to your own anger so that someone else doesn't get hurt, or is it that you want to feel less anger to begin with?
I think the anger is useful sometimes, but I think I want to know how to respond better to it.
Yeah.
And don't just pass it to the other person.
Yeah, cool.
So the way I communicate sometimes, then I bring this anger out.
Yeah, cool. And is there right now a pattern for that anger that you have observed that's like it's always in this situation and it keeps coming up?
I think it's mostly when I recognize lack of empathy.
Okay. And what does that mean specifically then? Is it towards you that there's lack of empathy, or is it towards everyone? Like if you have a clear...
Everyone. Sometimes it's not even someone doing something to me, but I'm watching something that I'm seeing someone not being empathic.
Yeah.
I get angry on this. And sometimes it's not related to me.
Yeah.
But I connect to this and I take it for me,
Okay. And what is the consequence that you have right now of not responding well to your own anger? So maybe, projecting it onto someone else or hurting someone else in the process. What is it? What's going on right now for you in that pattern?
I think I get connected to this anger. And then this mess up my frequency, my energy in general, it pulls me down.
Okay, so is this, when you communicate around this, does this then bring you down, but does it happen, has it got any consequences with the other person? Or is it mainly that you feel overwhelmed by your own anger?
No, both. I feel overwhelmed, but for the other person, I do think that I express what I want to express, let's say saying what I'm seeing or my truth or whatever. But the way I express, it's too sharp.
Okay.
And then the other person gets hurt.
Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this in your body. What's actually is going on. Sometimes when we have strong reactions, it's from the past. We're literally recreating stories and beliefs and energies from the past, and so it can bring up these stronger emotions right now. And sometimes it's just a completely normal reaction, but sometimes it's, when you feel, okay, this is this creates too much chaos in my life, I don't want this, and it's usually having kind of had this pattern for a long time and just recreating the same scenario, right?
I think it's related to my child for sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then you already have an intuitive sense for it.
So because when I was a child, I was getting this anger, but I was not able to express it. So I was holding it.
Yeah, well, there you go. So let's have a look at that child directly and that energy in you. So I'd like you to first, you can bring up the most recent event where you felt anger, or if there's any event that already, that you haven't resolved where you feel anger. Can you feel that anger in your body right now?
Yes,
Okay, where do you feel it?
it's between my liver and coming up,
Okay,
and I can feel like I feel like I want to shout.
okay. If you now connect to this energy, what is it wanting to express? Like you want to shout, but what does it want to say?
The first thing is just like shouting, la, no stop.
Yeah.
Like really, like there is something stored, like some anger that wants to come out. And I think this situation and different situations touch this place, but I have this anger there that when it comes out, it's not because of the situation, but it's pressing this button.
Yeah.
So when I feel it, it's just like, not specifically for a reason. Like,
Yeah. So when you're feeling it right now, what does it actually want to shout or scream? What content does it have?
I think now I feel related to like, I want my space. Like, I want my space.
Okay. How can I give you space if you ask it?
It comes like, leave me alone.
Living alone?
Yes, leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Mhm.
Who is not leaving me alone?
I go back to this like place, like in my house when I was younger,
Yeah.
that it was like too much noise, everyone talking all the time, and every time like someone around, like and noise,
Yeah. So
like no silence. I had no silence.
yeah. So how old were you when this happened?
Like 7, 8.
Okay. And if you go back to that time now as your adult self, kind of observing the 7-year-old, what is she feeling? It
The
might be her
child,
tired.
the child or me?
Yeah, the child.
Mm, she wants to walk away.
Okay.
She just wants some silence.
Yeah. So I'd like it to first bring her to a place where it's more silent. So you can, take her by the hand and bring her to a place where there's peace and quiet. And I'd like you to ask her what was going on when there's lots of noise and there's just no silence. What did that make her feel?
Drained,
Drained.
not listened.
Yeah. Not heard,
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. What else?
And like just angry.
And anger. What does she want you to know right now? She got anything to tell you as an adult in this space?
She just asks like to take her out from there.
Yeah. And now that you've kind of taken out of that situation, you can properly give her attention, properly listen to her, you can hold her, and just ask her, what do you need? So we're taking you out of the situation. What else do you need? There's something you want to tell me. There's something else that you want from me. She's got your full attention.
She's asking like why she needs to be there.
Why do I need to be there?
Mm,
What does she feel when she says that?
Not belonging.
Okay. So is that a feeling of being alone or being outside of a group? Sadness?
Is the feeling of like always having people around talking to you, talking to her.
But not being with her.
Yes, but like all the time, like looking for her. Where is you? Where are you? And wanting to have her close, and but this draining feeling, and I actually think that it's what I still feel as an adult, but now I'm able to have my breaks. And when like she's not able to have these breaks, and this is needed for us both.
Yeah.
Stay close to people, but have these breaks in silent. And she was struggling because she was a child. She couldn't like just walk away.
Yeah. So now that you're giving her that space, you can also acknowledge the struggling that she went through. So I'm sorry that you didn't have a place where you could be alone, where you could process and integrate things. I'm sorry that you always felt, this anger, this frustration, this drained energy because people were not able or capable of meeting your needs. And I'm also sorry that you didn't feel a sense of that you were heard or seen in that.
She feels suffocated, like too much.
Yeah.
I also want to say I'm proud of her, because always was she was always looking for a way of creating this space. So like when she was going to the farm, like for summertime, she was always going to play on like some tree, like a bit far from the house. So it was like where she could stay in silent on the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
So she was the whole day there. Or like in the swimming pool, she was the whole afternoon away from her parents, just on the water, just like nobody could talk to her, and swimming and being underwater, like where she could find silence.
Yeah.
So every single opportunity she had, she was taking it.
Yeah. And did it feel like when you were spending a lot of time with your parents that they were constantly invading your space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still like this when I go home. And I think that's why I left.
Yeah. So I'd like you to imagine that you're now giving her the space that she needed. So this might be out in nature or in the pool or wherever. And you're just taking her to a place. And I also want you to know that you are going to be there for her whenever she feels suffocated or invaded or drained, that you're there for her. You can caretake her in the way that your parents couldn't. And you can take her out. And like you did today, now you're able to make space for yourself. And at the same time, you're also doing this for her and allowing her to be. And at the same time, to have the pattern that someone is invading my space, so I need to leave. It's a coping mechanism to that pattern instead of having a healthy relationship where space is naturally given and it's not something you need to escape from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very easy that we just recreate the same pattern, so we need to escape from the same things rather than understanding how to give ourselves what we need and communicate that in a healthy way in a relationship, right?
Yeah, this is
So
what happened last week.
yeah, so maybe just right now come back to the feeling of anger in your body. So we're leaving the 7-year-old for now and just come back into the actual liver and the upward feeling that you got. What is going on in that area right now?
Is still there?
So put your awareness there. And can you explain to me what is going on sensationally here? So is it like heat or pain? Is it a tension? What does it feel like in your body?
It's like a pressure.
Okay. And where is that pressure located more exactly?
I still feel a bit in the liver, but it's like more on the heart now.
Okay, cool. So bring your awareness fully into the heart. It can be also simultaneously by the liver.
And I feel on the throat too. It's like this way and a bit not on the throat, a bit down, but close to the throat.
Okay, interesting. So move your awareness there as well. And what does this energy want from you right now? Is there any information here?
It's a feeling of like it wants to come out.
How can I allow you to come out? Is there anything you need to express? Can I do something? Is there a movement? Is there a sound? Can I allow you to come out?
I feel this black ball, something sticky, and is like my body is processing it to
Mhm.
put it up, and it's it's wishing to come like out.
Mhm. So how can I move this energy out of my body?
I feel that the body is doing it itself,
Mhm.
like some internal movement. It's trying to take it out. I think it left.
Okay. So check this area again, maybe the throat, the heart, liver. What is going on right now there?
I feel it's lighter.
Mhm.
The heart chakra is very open. Mm, I still feel a bit on my throat, but it's much smaller.
So let's go with our awareness in the throat. What is going on in there right now?
It's more on the left side, like as if I could share my throat channel, let's say.
Mhm.
In two, it's on the left.
And what is it? What does it want? What is it saying?
Mm, I feel it's more towards my mom.
Yeah. Does it feel like her energy? Does it feel like something related to how you felt around her? How is this showing up in her, in you?
I feel that I was always listening to her,
Mhm.
but she talks too much. So she has this need of being listened to,
Yeah.
and she finds it on me. So since I was a child, I was always like listening to her, but
Okay.
then it was too much.
Yeah.
But I wanted to help her because I wanted to listen to her because she was not never listened,
Yeah.
but I couldn't carry it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we're a child, our need to be seen and heard is so important for us to feel safe. When that doesn't happen, and we need to be the one who is caretaking our mother's needs, you're flipping the role, right? So you're becoming the mother, so you listen and hear her instead of the other way around. And putting that responsibility on a child is not a healthy way to relate to a child. So let's bring up your mother. What do you feel that you need to tell her in this?
I'm sorry you were not seen and listened when you were a child,
Yeah. What else?
but I'd like you see and listen to me, and you never did.
Yeah. And what happened in you when that didn't happen?
She's just looking at me and she doesn't know how to react.
Yeah. But what happened in you when you were not listened to?
I get angry,
Yeah.
very angry.
Yeah. And what would you like to say to her more in this?
Every time you were complaining I was angry, it was because of that. I just wanted to be listened.
Yeah.
I just want to see that someone cares,
Yeah.
and that I'm important.
Yeah.
That my opinion important, that my feelings important.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
I still feel angry.
Yeah, good. What else does the anger want to express towards her? Could be like, why didn't you deal with this? Why do I have to deal with this energy? Why didn't you deal with it? Why didn't you meet your own needs so that you could meet mine? Or anything else that you needed to say when you were a child, or that you need to say as an adult to her?
No, I see her limitation and her like she doesn't do it because she doesn't know how to do better.
Yeah. And
But
this is you tuning into her, which is excellent. It's compassionate and you're showing empathy, right?
yeah.
However, the anger in you is still active.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how this relates, because you came into this anger of not showing empathy, right?
Mhm.
So what does this anger feel right now in her inability to show empathy? And it doesn't matter that you want to wrong her, because you do have the perspective what she was going through. So there's a part of you that's aware of why she acted like she did, but I want to address the part of you that is angry at her. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So sometimes we hold both perspectives, like I understand why this happened, yes, but if there's unaddressed anger in you, we still need to address that, regardless of her not understanding her or not, right? So what left in this anger do you have towards her that you feel needs to come out, needs to be expressed?
I think I felt unfair because I was always listening to her and she was never listening to me.
Yeah, it's unfair.
It's unfair.
Yeah, I can't give more. I'm fed up.
Mhm. And it came this image of like she like always coming after me in the house, like where are you, what are you doing? And sometimes I was locking myself in the bathroom
Yeah,
and just staying there for hours, saying that I was like just with like I was not feeling good and I needed to stay in the toilet, but I was actually feeling very good, but I was spending like an hour there
yeah,
just to stay alone. And she was knocking the door and asking like, what are you doing?
yeah,
It's very suffocating.
yeah. So maybe let's look at the suffocating energy, right? Because the anger is one. Leave me alone, right? It's very clear. The suffocating energy is like when you've gone over the max already. Just a slight difference in the energy. So if you tune into the suffocating energy now, where do you feel it?
Shoulders and neck.
Mhm. And how does it feel like? Is there a pressure? Is there like a weight? Is it tension?
It's tension and pressure.
Mhm. And what is going on in this energy? Got any information?
It's the feeling of like I cannot stay on my own. I cannot listen to myself. I have no space.
Yeah,
All the time someone interfering. All the time someone like uh, 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 touching me
yeah,
energetically or through words or physically. But every time like someone coming, like talking to me, talking to me, talking to me, and like not time to breathe.
yeah,
No time to breathe.
yeah. What does this energy need from you?
Space.
Mhm. How can I give it space?
Observing when I'm reaching this
Yeah,
stage and then creating my own time to ventilate it,
yeah,
then ventilating it and then coming back. But sometimes usually like I don't do it and then I wait for it to explode and then I explode in anger.
yeah. So this part of you needs some space. It needs to be acknowledged when that's happening, and it needs to be
Being aware.
seen and heard, no, from you.
Yeah, being aware observe myself,
Yeah.
and knowing that this is something that's not going to change. I need it. This is
Yeah.
part of me.
Yeah. So you can come back to regular awareness, and I just want to talk a little bit about how we can look at these energies. So it's so obvious for me, and I think it's obvious for you too, that you had your space invaded so many times, where you would have needed to say no, been listened to and respected. And when that didn't happen, either because you were a child and you didn't know how to say no, or that it was an option to say no, and when more and more things were demanded from you, all of that is happening energetically when the same pattern is coming up today, right? It's almost like I'm going to go immediately into the anger of just leave me alone, instead of looking at all these energies that are coming up still. And it's so funny how we start mirroring patterns, because your pattern is basically I'm not being seen and heard, which is the same pattern that your mother had, which you're now applying in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So the reverse to that is what you just discovered in the shoulders, which is I need to see and hear myself, which is what you needed when you were a kid as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is what you need now, so that you're not recreating the pattern of I'm not being seen and heard, right? Does that make sense for you? It's like your mother took the extreme of that, so she's just gonna talk, so that obviously you don't feel seen and heard, but it's because she didn't feel seen and heard from the beginning, or she wouldn't put that demanding energy onto you. And now you're recreating that in your own system by not seeing and hearing you, and then reacting in anger. So your mother might have reacted in the, trying to get attention, and like that. And you're doing it with the anger, which is your way, perhaps, that you got any type of attention. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the part of you that feels activated as soon as your space is invaded, this is a part of you that where the training comes in. So as soon as something is triggering anger in you, that's when you need to listen to yourself, right? And right now, since the pattern is or has been at least active in you, you're going to meet this again and again and again, this feeling of not being seen and heard, right? Which can be the same anger that you feel when you see someone not showing empathy, because empathy is basically I can see and hear and feel your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm going to get angry when you can't see that, because it reminds me of my mother not showing that empathy towards me, so I didn't receive empathy from her, right? And this is going to keep on, you're going to keep on attracting this until you completely worked through that. Does that make sense for you?
Totally.
So right now there might have been a resistance to feeling that, like a resistance to feeling the anger, resistance to communicating, resistance to whatever is going on. And because you're working with this pattern, it's important that it that you meet it every time with more consciousness, so that that pattern can be healed and released. And you're already on the path. So meeting these energies that are coming up is already on the path, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of different needs going on here at the same time, and you can meet them yourself, but you can also ask these needs to be met. And I'm curious to kind of go down that route now, because the only way that you knew how to deal with this energy when you were a kid is to escape, right? To go away. And that is your way of meeting your own need, and that's brilliant. But ideally, you would like to work on this energy so that that doesn't need to happen. Now, there's nothing wrong with needing space and taking it. That's a healthy thing. But to create a relationship where that is needed because it's constantly being invaded, that's not a healthy place to create a relationship, right? It needs to be very clearly, as soon as you feel that you need to have empathy, or you need to be seen and heard, or you need space, they're all different ways of getting your needs met. That's where you want to come in and say, understand that you have that need in yourself and then ask for that. And the same with putting a boundary, because when you're a kid, the boundary had to be crossed so many times before you took space. And you want to put that immediately, for example, with your mother today. When we're working with anger, it's so easy that we put the anger out, or we put the boundaries out on the other person, when actually it's what you're going to do or not going to do. So this might be an example with your mother, even when you're a kid or today. Right now, you're talking a lot, and I feel that I'm not being listened to. So if you continue to talk, I'm going to leave the room. That is a very easy boundary. Like, if you continue to talk, I will leave the room. If you continue to do this behavior, then this is the consequence that I'm going to control, right? Because you cannot control her talking, nor can you control her doing whatever, but you can control your own actions. So
It's a bit complicated because she knows that she talks too much.
yeah,
She tries to change it, but she cannot control it.
yeah. So if you're
So many times she feels that like I'm talking too much. And then like I'm like not scared, but like then I feel bad on like reaffirming it, like confirming like, yes, you are talking too much.
Yeah.
Because something that it hurts her already because she doesn't want to talk that much.
Yeah. So that pain that she feels is not something bad when it's coming from the truth in you. Okay, you don't want her to feel pain, but the only way she can learn is if you express the truth, which is pain in you. Then she understands, okay, I'm actually hurting you with this behavior. Okay, because it is painful for you. So to not express that pain to her so that she doesn't have to feel pain, that's not the right way to go. We believe, and especially as empath, we don't want, especially our parents, to be in pain because then we're in pain. But the point here is you need to understand that you can be with your own pain. She can be with her own pain. If you communicate your pain to her and it hurts her, that pain is teaching her how to be with you in a more healthy way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's like depends on how I express it, because I did this many times, but I'm always expressing from angry.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Like,
this is
no, I'm not going to call you anymore.
yeah, exactly. So this is not a boundary, that is a punishment. So to understand the difference between a request, a boundary, and a punishment. So a request is, please, can you be quiet for some time and listen to me? That's a request. A boundary is, if you do this, I will do that. Right? If you don't do this, I will do that. So it's a consequence. A boundary is a consequence. If you overstep my boundaries, this is the action I'm going to take. It's not a punishment. It's simply saying, if you continue to do this, I'll stop doing that. So instead of saying, I'm not going to call you, which is a punishment, you can say, if you continue talking, I will hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because you're giving her the option of choosing if she wants to continue the behavior or not. And this is usually something that when people understand there's a direct consequence, but it's not coming from punishment, it's just you want them to change their behavior, then they can choose themselves to change that behavior or not. They understand, if I continue to talk, she will hang up the phone. Or if I do this repeatedly, she will not call me anymore. Makes sense. But to just go into the punishment immediately, that makes her upset, because it's not dealt with love. Right?
It worked well when I used it, but it was more painful, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so to be able to understand the difference between these two, right? A request is you ask something from a person and then they can do it or not. So please don't talk so much, that's a request. But if she continues talking, then she's done nothing wrong, because you just asked her and then she didn't do what you asked. So there's no, like, in a good relationship, when you have a request, someone will listen to that request and try to make it better. But sometimes we're not aware that we're continuing hurting another person, right? So then the boundary is, you know, and it can even come from empathy. Like, I understand that you really want to talk and really want to be listened to right now, but I don't have the capacity to do that. So if you continue, I'm going to need to end the conversation, or I'm going to hang up, or I'm going to leave the room. And that is not, it can still be painful for someone to feel, oh no, I talk too much, but that was then also true. Does that make sense? To understand that, okay, I did something that hurt you, to be in truth about that is good. Oh, I hurt you. Okay, I actually want to change this. And if she already knows she wants to change this behavior, then to get feedback of her behavior in a healthy way, that's also a way that she can learn. But it's also a way for you, not just with your mother, but in any relationship, to put boundaries around your own needs and where you feel that you can give and where you can't give. Because what you did when you were a kid was you were giving outside of your own consent. You were giving too much. When you give too much, you get drained. And to understand where that limit is for you. So when you give within consent, you feel generous. You're happy to give. It's a nice feeling. Like, you don't mind doing that. And maybe empathy and listening is something that you really like doing. So you can do that. But there is going to be the limit of when it's within consent for you to give and outside of consent for you to give. And your body will tell you where that limit is, because it will start feeling drained. It will start feeling something is maybe happening in the throat, or something is happening in this, it feels this way, right? So that is where you need to apply the listening skills that you did develop, because obviously if your mother talked the whole time, you would have developed a high levels of listening, right? So that's just turning that skill set towards yourself, listening to the subtle signals of, actually, now I'm giving outside of my own consent. Here is where my limit goes. And to go over that limit is unkind toward yourself. As a kid, you couldn't control that because you didn't know how to do that. But today you can. Like, okay, now I'm giving outside of my consent. And when you give outside of your own consent, it's something you're doing yourself. It's no one else's fault that you're giving outside of consent. You are doing that to yourself, and then you're getting drained. Unless someone is, ordering you to do something and you're a slave somehow. Does that make sense? So you're actually giving things outside of your own consent. And that is where you need to have awareness where that limit is, because you know what that cost is for you. I give outside of consent, whether that's listening, whether that's empathy, whether that is whatever else in your life where you're giving. If you start giving outside of consent, it doesn't feel good for you, and it doesn't feel good for the other person either. Because
But in this point is like, exactly in this point is where the anger starts. Because then I'm giving and being generous and I feel good, but then I get into the limit. And my perspective is that the other person should know that I'm going under the limit.
yeah,
So when I reach the limit, then I blame the other person.
exactly. Yeah, because
And then I explode.
because we believe that the other person should know where our limit is. Right? And then we feel invaded, or we feel, we've given too much. There's not an equal energy here, but you are responsible about what you're giving always. So you need to know when you can't give more, and even before that happens. Okay, and your body will tell you, it will start showing you a little bit of anger. Yeah, I'm giving too much now. And it's the same with receiving. So you can receive within consent, right? You can have people giving you things, giving you empathy, giving you gifts, giving you money, whatever it is. And it can feel really good. And you feel grateful. So gratitude is when you know that you're receiving within consent. Now, if you receive outside of consent, you're starting to feel fed up, right? The feeling is fed up. I'm getting too much. It feels off. It starts feeling weird in the body. So the body always knows these two, and there's the taking and the allowing energy as well, right? So you can allow lots of things to happen and it feels good, but there's a certain point when it doesn't feel good to allow. Say someone comes into your house, you're allowing them to stay there. You feel that it's great that they're there, but then when they stay too long, you start feeling used. You start feeling like a doormat, like they can just walk over you. Doesn't feel good. So to understand what you are giving, your anger will be your greatest tool to understand when you have given a little bit more than what your capacity is, and you need to stop giving, right? Because otherwise, like you said, if you're giving to receive something and you're not receiving something, you're going to have resentment. And to give to receive something is also not a healthy way to give. To give simply because you enjoy the giving, that's where you want to be. And to receive simply because you enjoy receiving, that's where you want to be. You don't want to feel when you receive lots that you need to give. And you don't want to give lots of things only to receive things, because then it's not an actual gift to someone. Does that make sense? If you're giving to receive something, you're people pleasing. So I'm going to give you all of these things because I want love from you. I'm going to give you this thing because I want your attention. I'm going to listen to you for days because I want you to eventually finally listen to me. Yeah, but that gift is not coming from a true place in you. It's coming from needing something from the other person. So we start people pleasing in that. Does this make sense for you, all of these things?
Yeah. And I think that this example you gave about like having someone at your home, it's a very good one, because like what happened to me is, let's say, have someone for 3 days, and then I'm happy that the person is here.
Yeah.
But then on the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, I start getting angry on the person.
Yeah.
And then more than this, like, doesn't matter how close I am to the person, if the person do this to me, I just cross this person. I don't want to talk to the person later anymore.
Yeah.
Because I classify the person as abusive.
Yes. And this is probably where you need to learn how to communicate what you can give, what you can allow. Giving and allowing are different things. So giving is when you're doing the action. Allowing is when someone else is doing the action, right? So you're allowing someone in your house, they're coming to you. Yeah, but you're giving your time and your empathy. So to put, if you give a gift freely and someone takes it, right? If they don't know where that gift ends and you haven't communicated with that gift's ends, they haven't done anything wrong. If you tell someone, come stay at my house, you can stay however long you want, and they come and they stay however long they want, they haven't done anything wrong. If you say, come to my house, you can stay 3 days, they come for 3 days and then they stay the 4th. Now they've done something wrong. But the only way that they have done something wrong is because you've communicated clearly what you can offer beforehand. And then if they overstep that, that's when you can apply the anger, because they have actually not followed your agreement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is exactly where you came in for. It's like, okay, I need to understand when I start communicating, like how much I can give, how much I can allow. Be clear with that before people come into agreement with you. And you kind of already know now beforehand, okay, maybe 3 days is the maximum. Maybe I can listen to you for 30 minutes with your mother, right? You can tell her, I can now listen for 30 minutes. It feels good for me to be there for her. For 30 minutes, that's fine. After that, I would like to share things for 30 minutes and then I want to leave the call. Or whatever it is, right? Because what's making you angry is you overstepping your own limit. Because it's exhausting. It makes you angry. It makes you fed up. It makes you feel used. But no one else knows where that boundary is with you until you put that boundary. No one knows how much can we do this or not until you're clear. And your body is wanting you to listen to when it's too much for them. It'll show you. Through feeling drained, through feeling anger. And the more you listen to that, the more you can put the boundary before that happens. Actually, I know myself enough that I will need space. So this is fine, this is not fine. And those boundaries are not to make the other person feel uncomfortable. It's the other way around. When the other person knows exactly what I can offer, that is a gift for me to offer, then they can freely receive that gift because they know that it's not causing you pain. But if you're giving something and then it suddenly causes pain for you to give that gift is really hard to receive.
Yeah. It makes sense.
So how are you feeling now with all of this?
Good.
What's your
Gave me some more clarity, because I went around like where this was coming from. Then I knew it was like in childhood, but like now today we explored it like more deeply.
Yeah.
So it gave me more clarity about it, and this knowledge of like, okay, you need to be aware about where your limit is, and nobody else will know it, only you. So it's not like people's role to know where your limit is, because people's has different limits, and there is no maximum empathy they can have towards you that they will know your limit.
No.
You
No,
need to show it.
yeah. And when we don't have clear limits, people can be very uncomfortable around us because they don't know if they can do something or not. When it's super clear, it's easy. It's easier for us. Oh, cool. I can stay there for 3 days. Oh, cool. Just an example. This is what I do with my friends when we need emotional support from each other. A unconscious friendship can look like this. I call my friend and I just burst out everything that's wrong. Right? Here, I can feel like a burden to my friend. Oh my goodness, I just unloaded all of these things. I can feel like, oof, it feels like I'm taking something from her. It doesn't feel good in my body. It feels good to relieve whatever I had on my heart. But in the end, it's like, oh, now maybe if she calls me, I kind of want to make the same gesture towards her. Now, here's what we implement instead. Hey, I am in need of some emotional support. Do you have time? Asking for consent. Yeah, I do. No, I don't. I don't right now, but maybe later. How much time do you need? Okay, I just need 30 minutes. Actually, I just need to vent. Okay, well, send me a voice message. Whatever it is, we're asking for consent for our needs to be met. When she says, yes, I've got half an hour, is that fine? Amazing. Now I have permission to seek emotional support from her. It feels good for me to know that she has time for me, that I'm not a burden, that I'm not taking something from her, because it's freely given. And the same if someone calls me, if they just burst out things, I'm going to feel used and feel good. Unless we have that dynamic where it's like, I have done the same to her, then for me, when someone just comes, it's like, no, this doesn't feel good. But if they come and they ask, hey, do you have time? Yeah, of course. Then I can choose, do I have the capacity? Do I have the time? And do I have the willingness? If I have got all three, then this is a beautiful exchange. I love helping someone with their emotional support things. Like, that's literally what I do. I love it. But if they're expecting it from me or they're demanding it from me, it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
knowing the difference between what you can ask for, to know that you are in consent to give what you're giving, it feels very safe. It feels good on both ends, always. And to know that we're able to do that with someone also makes the relationship much healthier. And so that can also be a practice with your mother, but also in your relationship, to have a clear agreement, like to consent to listen, to consent to allow whatever is going on. Then your mother, for example, if she had clear consent for you, I've got half an hour to vent, I'll just vent. It will feel good for her. She won't feel like she's taking up too much space because you've already agreed that you can do that for her. But if she calls you and you haven't consented to that, she feels she's talking too much. It doesn't feel good for her to do that. Make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what's going on now in your body?
I can feel it more light.
The throat.
Mm. Yeah, I don't feel like the whole way like clean, but it's much more light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the liver.
Also, I can feel that still has some things, but it's lighter.
Yeah. So these might be things that needs to be addressed, right? And I'll leave you to address them when they're more active in you and when they have clear things to say. Because for me, it's already clear what happened in that anger. It's already, it's all these times where you were not able to put a boundary, you were not listened to, all these things. It's accumulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that I would like to mention before we wrap up is this is your practice. It is to notice when your body starts communicating your limit. So people can right now overstep your limit a little bit, simply so that you can learn, okay, no, that's too much. And it's going to be a little bit messy in the beginning. Like you said, it might be outbursts of anger because that's what you've done before. And be patient with this process. It's not always going to be clean and healthy, but you can already now feel when someone asks something from you, is that a yes or a no for me? Do I have capacity for that or not? And if you say yes, and then it starts to feel a little bit angry, then you know that, okay, this was actually not a yes for me. Or it was a yes, but there was too much given. That I need a little bit less. And when that happens, that can be communicated to the other person. Okay, actually, I'm sorry, I gave a little bit outside of my consent, or I allowed a little bit too much here. It's not your fault. I didn't know where exactly that boundary was, and the consequence of me getting drained and all these things. Because right now you're blaming the other person for you being drained instead of putting the boundaries so that doesn't happen to you. That makes sense. So it's just not having resistance to your boundaries being crossed, not having resistance to the anger coming up, because that is right now how you can learn to really understand what you're consenting to and not, how much you can give and how much not. No, so your body knows already. It's just listening to those signs and taking a step back to listen to them to understand. And even now, I would advise you to, whenever someone comes into your field and they're asking something for you, before you immediately reply, take a moment, listen in. And if, like, sometimes we do, we put our boundary exactly at the limit. So it's like, yeah, I can give all of these things and all these things and all these things, but, and then it's too much. But you can also practice taking down that limit to give actually a little bit less than what you can give, to allow a little bit less. And then once that has been used, so to speak, then you can say, okay, actually, can I give more or not? So that you're not completely at exhaustion. Does that make sense? You kind of take small steps to allow a little bit less than what you've done before to see where that limit is. And okay, maybe I can take on a little bit more, maybe not. This feels good, that doesn't feel good. Because both allowing and giving and receiving, they all feel good when they're within consent. It's a nice energy to be generous.
Yeah, of course.
It's a nice energy to have empathy. It's nice, right? Until it's outside of our own consent. Yeah. Okay, so I feel this is kind of a good place to end the conversation. But is there anything else that you want to share or say or ask or state?
No, I think that's all. I got lots of clarity and good tips on how to act from now on. So yeah, I think that's all as well.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for participating.
Thank you for opening this space and for offering this and to being so generous.
Well, thank you for participating, and hopefully other people can learn from it as well.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this show. If you're interested in working with me, either through a similar session like this in a longer container, or if you want to come to any of my local events in Malaga, in Spain, you can click the links in the show notes or go to my website, flipalevermark.com, to find out more.